We are trying to reduce the noise dramatically on email marketing, right? So today, if you take the 2%, it's like send 100 emails, get 2 replies.
Yep.
Our vision for the world is send 10 emails, get 5 replies. That's a better vision for everybody.
This is Stay Paid, a sales and marketing podcast on a mission to help you close more deals and retain more business.
Our guest today is Andy Mowat. Andy is a serial entrepreneur, advisor, and investor with over 18 years of experience in growing technology companies with a focus on marketing and revenue operations. Andy has had a key role in scaling businesses like Culture Amp, Box, and Upwork. After sending over 100 million emails in his career, he founded Gated to fix email for both buyers and sellers. Andy, welcome to the podcast.
Great to meet you guys.
Andy, man, it's awesome to have you on the show. I was doing some research in your background, and you've been a part of really 3 unicorn type startups really that have made it, which is impressive in and of itself. Like most businesses, especially our industry knows this in the small business space, it's like 90% failure rate within 5 years. And that really probably transcends just the small business space. It's really entrepreneurs and startups in general. Mm-hmm. You've had a multitude of successes within the entrepreneur space. I want to dive right into this topic. Your new company is Gated. It's all about email marketing. Give us a little bit of an overview. Why did you start Gated? Because you're trying to solve a problem with email marketing. Why did you start the company? And then let's get into this whole concept of email marketing and where it's going in your belief.
Yeah, totally. In simplest form, I was pummeled by email, right? I was an executive at a unicorn or a soon-to-be unicorn, and everyone was just lining up and selling me everything under the sun. And so I wrote an email that said, hey, this was just because I was so annoyed. I wrote an email that said, I don't know you. Your email's not going to make it to my inbox. Here's my Venmo link, and here's a nonprofit I care about. I think I did Wounded Warrior to start. And people just started Venmoing me money, right? And after that, I ended up building it out. It's funny, like we're not actually, and we can talk more in the podcast about it, but we're not trying to facilitate more email marketing. We're trying to reduce the noise dramatically in email marketing so that good content still gets through.
So what is Gated? Kind of give people an idea, because that idea of sending back a link to donate to charity. So what is Gated? It kind of plays off that same idea?
Yeah, it's exactly what that is. I basically built it out. It's super simple what we do. For people that don't know you, we take that email out of the inbox and we send them a challenge email. And that challenge email says effectively, here's the way to get into the inbox, which is donate. We also say, hey, if we know you, or if you know us, but this is a new email, you can click to kind of avoid the payment as well too. And so we've built that out, and we are about to unleash it on the world.
So if I email you, and you don't know me, I'm not going to get in the inbox. So you'll send me an email that basically says, Luke, if you want to get into Andy's email, then you have to donate to Wounded Warriors, or you can choose to donate to Wounded Warriors. Boom, I donate. You get notified. Do you get notified through an email, or does my original email come through the inbox?
Your original email gets pulled back and put in the inbox, and then there's a tag put right in the inbox that says donation, and then the user gets donated on how much was donated. So the user gets to pick the nonprofit and the donation amount. Interestingly, 40% of people donate more than the minimum, right? So we let people pay more, and we
Super
see
interesting.
higher donations all the time.
Well, I think it triggers psychologically reciprocity. Yes. They've donated, done something good for you or on behalf of you, right? In the cause that you support. And now you almost feel this social obligation to at least read their email.
That's exactly what happened. And we've been testing and iterating on that whole decision process for a long time. Yes. So in a cold email world, with cold outbound, response rates are 2%.
Yep.
Somebody donates, and the average donation is about $3. If somebody donates, the reply rates go up to about 50%. And so you can see, yeah, exactly. You guys make your living on this. And so if you start to, I think at a fundamental level, we want to force people to think, is this email I'm sending relevant, valuable, and well-written and personalized, right? And so if that happens, then you donate. And of course, that email reply rate is, a 25x increase in reply rate is definitely worth a couple bucks.
How many salespeople or marketers, how many senders are donating? Out of the percentage that are trying to get through that your system's catching, how many are actually then putting in a donation?
Let's see. We don't fully disclose it. I'm just trying to think of
Gotcha.
the closest I would come to is percentage of challenge emails sent that we monetize, and that's upwards of 5 to 10%.
Gotcha. And
Nice.
it's free for like I'm an email user, right? Not a sender. I'm a receiver. It's free to sign up on my
It's
end.
100% free forever. That's my fundamental thing that I saw. It says there's 10,000 tools that help senders, marketers, sellers pummel buyers with email.
Yep.
There's a fundamental problem with the economic model of email, which is if two people want to reach somebody in any other marketing channel, they'll bid that up and one person will get that. In email, everyone just dumps into your inbox.
It's
right?
just free.
So there is a missing marginal cost that doesn't force the right behavior. We've
Gotcha.
done that. And so to answer your question, yes, it's 100% free for users. I think we want to build the first tool that gives users defense. Everybody on the marketing side has bots and automation and they're sending all this stuff, but the users don't. And so I think what it is it's really odd and feels weird when you get the first one of these back. You're like, wait a second, like what just happened here?
Yep.
Effectively, users finally used automation on senders is what happened. And that's what we're building.
Super interesting. You see Gmail is making a movement towards this idea of protecting the recipients when they came out with their promotions tab, right? And every marketer cried when Gmail came out with the promotions tab. But you see it's like the segmentation of the emails that are coming into your inbox to help, the noise. Because I'm a person that receives easily probably 100 emails a day. It's insane because I'm like you, right? I'm running an organization and everybody's trying to sell me something. Everybody's trying to reach me. You're giving people a very unique way to reach. You had mentioned something when we were researching that you think marketing automation is dying or is going to die here in the future. And I'm curious to know your thoughts on why do you believe marketing automation is headed towards a death? And where is it going? Where is marketing going from at least an email perspective?
I don't think it's dying, right? Like we're not trying to shut down email marketing. We are trying to reduce the noise dramatically on email marketing, right? So today, if you take the 2%, it's like send 100 emails, get 2 replies.
Yep.
Our vision for the world is send 10 emails, get 5 replies. That's a better vision for everybody, right? So I think what's going to end up happening is you're still going to need to do one-to-one email at scale, but the days of sending from marketing at or hello at or no reply at should just be over, right? You should have to be forced to think like, listen, this email is going to cost me something. So I want to invest more in the quality and maybe make it personal. At Culture Amp, we started to experiment with, instead of sending tons and tons of emails for event follow-up out of HubSpot, we started to hand them to our reps and say, hey, listen, follow up personally. And we saw dramatic improvements in reply rates, right? So I think you will always need automation because you're still going to need to send emails at scale, but when there's a cost to them, it's going to force you to think about it a little bit differently.
No, I totally agree. It's interesting. You're touching on something that Josh and I believe wholeheartedly across all marketing, but specifically with email marketing, which is, look, the power of your email marketing is going to be in the power of your list segmentation and the personalization of your content. Meaning, how relevant is this content? And this is really ads across the board. The reason why Facebook makes so much money, Google makes so much money is because they have data on you and they can serve ads that they think most likely connect with those data points that you're interested in. And so it's relevant to you. And that's why you're drawn to it. Email marketing has been more of a mass blast platform. I've always been under the impression that, look, where email needs to go is it needs to be not a one-to-many, but more of a one-to-one. Right now, if you think of the platforms, you do one email newsletter, and let's take real estate, for instance, because that's a huge segment of our listeners. Everybody gets the same email newsletter that you're sending out. Where I think like the future of email needs to continue to trend to, which the tech is already there, but it hasn't been adopted totally, is I send an email newsletter, but it adapts to Andy based upon his likes and interests, what content he's into. And the one that's sent to Josh is a little bit different and it adapts to him. Still the ability to go, basically a one-to-many blast standpoint, but it's a one-to-one from a content standpoint. What do you think about that?
I think it'll work, but when you call it a $2 or $3 cost on it, are you really going to send that newsletter? It's going to force you to think about it. Like I did a survey recently. I actually was talking to a gentleman the other day, and he made this profound statement, which is, I don't want to consume content via email. And I said, yes, I am in the same boat you are. Like I can use Flipboard, I can use whatever, but maybe use Twitter. But like when I'm in content consuming mode, it's not the same as email management mode, right? So like I don't subscribe to any newsletters. If somebody puts me on a newsletter, I unsubscribe. Now,
interesting.
Some people do, some people don't. Users that do can allow those emails in and say, great, like this is super high quality content. Like I want to read, I'm a real estate person and I want to see, like, if your content is high enough quality, you'll let it in. Like I've got 2 or 3 newsletters where I do say like, this is such high quality content that like, I'm not going to read it here, but I at least want to be alerted to the fact that you just published something. Yes. And so I don't think the vast majority of people consume content via email. And if you do that, like I think the vast majority of email newsletters will go away. Right now, they're just like, it costs me nothing to send to my database of 50,000, so I'm going to send to you. But how many of those people actually do it? So if you put a cost on that, I think it'll dramatically change.
What's interesting though, is that email marketing is still one of the most cost-effective ways to market.
Well, it is today. If you ask any marketer, what's your highest ROI channel, they say email because there's no denominator on that equation.
What do you mean by that?
Well, if you get anything off of it and the cost is 0, it's going to look like a really high ROI channel. If you put a cost on that, and you put the denominator on it, all of a sudden email, I've even got an article on our blog around, the days of 40x ROI on email marketing are dead. They should die if what we do is right? So if it costs anything, you're going to change your behavior, right? If you're having to spend $20,000 a month on email marketing,
you're just going to find the next mass blast thing that you can do, text message, right?
Yeah, the random overwhelming content will go to another channel, and email will be less of it sent, but the people that are writing it will invest a lot more in content, right? Like I know a guy, he's got 2 sales teams. One sales team just sends the volume. The other team spends time writing great emails, right? And right now they perform about the same, but in a world under which data does that, the writing of the content will become much more important.
Yeah. Don't you think, like, the way I kind of think about it is like the problem with it is that it's all also you have your content writing that you're doing. So I could spend hours and hours and hours trying to craft the right email for Stay Paid, right? And the email that's going out. And I'm going to hit people. And because it's valuable content, people will be drawn, but it really is dependent on where that person is at in their journey. So take our podcast, for instance, right now that we're doing. If we craft a big email, mass blast it to what's our list? 190,000 for Stay Paid?
Yep.
Right? So we mass blast it to 190,000. Even though we spent all this time, because we have a writer that's going to write it, we have, we're going to look at the subject lines and everything to make sure we're doing relevant keywording, all this stuff. Even though we spend all this time, the real indicator of whether or not we get value or the consumer gets value is based upon where they're at in their journey. So everybody in that 190,000 that has a problem with email marketing right now or wants to learn about email marketing, they're going to be drawn to that content. So my point, I guess I'm ultimately making is going, don't you want, is your plan for Gated to take it past just the donation side and do it more upon the interest side of tell us what you're interested in as a consumer and we will sort and flag your database by there? Or is it always going to be just trying to add a cost?
Google is better we're not getting into the world of looking at what is in the email. That is Google's world. Google takes a paradigm of everything should be in the inbox. They're going to use data and AI
to analyze it. Right.
Yeah. We don't look at the contents of the email, privacy and security. We're looking at the relationship graph and determining if somebody should be able to deliver to you. Now, you can decide, hey, I don't know you, but I'd like to receive your content. But our default setting is, no, I don't want to receive your content if I don't know from you.
You mentioned this idea of email as a paid channel. Is that specifically with this type of, you've got to pay to get to the inbox?
That is part of our vision. It's not the core driving thing in what we do. I think the core driving thing in what we do is to give users defense of their email, and whatever we want to do that, I think we will explore. But yes, effectively what we're doing is turning email into a paid channel. What's
some of the best tactics you've seen, other than obviously doing triggering the reciprocity effect, for an an outbound emailer, right? So when we say that, we're saying this is a cold email. You don't know this person. It's not a list that you signed up for.
The Black Friday emails that have been pouring in from everybody.
What are some of the best tactics that you've seen to naturally create engagement? I mean, you're getting into the inbox, you're creating that reciprocity, you're getting 50% reply. What are the people that are getting that reply putting in their email? How are they reaching that end user?
Well, look at it this way. Like when you get a challenge email, you immediately stop and you think, was the email I sent worth $2 or whatever that price for the user was? And the vast majority of it edits itself out, right?
Yeah, that's a great point.
And so actually roughly 9 out of 10 people say, no, it wasn't. And so like we've just driven up the quality of what is in the inbox significantly just with that maneuver. So I don't think there's anything, we haven't yet enabled this, but it's something we think a lot about is allowing the sender to rewrite that email before they pay for it, which would be great. Of like, hey, it's going to cost you $2 to deliver. Do you want to rewrite it? Right now, people aren't. People are just saying, I need to make a decision. Do I send this one or not? But there's a lot of interesting ways we can get to. So is there some magic tactic on email that you can write better emails to get higher replies? There's some really cool companies out there doing some cool stuff on that. Like, I think in the end, that's, you guys have probably read the book Predictable Revenue, right?
I haven't, no.
Aaron Ross, Mary Lou Tyler, it's the classic of sales outbounding, right? And so they had, they came up with some great tactics there. But with marketing, any tactic, once it becomes prevalent, doesn't work, right? So they came up with the concept of like, hey, who's the right person as a subject line, right? So they're not trying to sell you. You're just like, well, it's not me, but it's this person. And then boom, they're like, great, Andy just told me that I should reach out to you, right? So they create all these hacks, but at some point, those things become overplayed.
Yep.
And in marketing, they become overplayed. And then every time I see an email that says like, hey, who's the right person? I'm like, great. I know this is actually a prospecting email that's trying to waste my time. And so, another one was recently people did the cold FaceTime calls, right? Like that's an idea. It actually worked when they tested it, but because it was so new and so different that people tried it. But once everyone's cold FaceTime and calling, you just shut that down.
Right.
And so like, I think the beauty marketing is at its core about trying new, interesting things and things work. Right. And so I don't think there's some amazing thing I can say to people to write better emails. It's like, you just got to be able to try interesting things, wear your personality in your sleeve. But like, there's only so much innovation you can do in email.
It's interesting. There's another company that has kind of played off of the same tactic of it's almost like pay to play in a way. It's I want to buy you lunch or I want to buy you a coffee. Have you seen these companies? And they literally facilitate, even though this person might be in California trying to prospect me, they're going to buy me lunch and they're going to eat lunch over Zoom. And we'll basically have a lunch together. But it's the same type of idea that, hey, I'll buy you a coffee, I'll buy you lunch if you allow me basically to, pitch you for 5 minutes or whatever. And their pitch comes through email, but that's how they've posed up their emails. At first, it got my attention. But then because of what you're saying, it's overdone. It's like I just ignore almost all of them now.
Well, here's the thing. It's actually very different than what we do. It sounds similar when you start, right? They're selling time. We're selling attention. It's a subtle difference, but I've probably seen 30 companies over the years, and I've studied this problem for like my entire career, that are selling like, hey, for this price, I'll get you this meeting with this person. Have you guys ever done a timeshare presentation?
I was just, when Luke was saying that, I was sitting here thinking of timeshares.
When you sell your hour, you cannot get it back, right? And somebody owns you for that time. The reality is that coffee costs, you get the $25 to $50 gift card, but your half hour is worth much more than that, right? So there's 3 or 4 problems with selling time. The biggest one I've seen is just delivering consistent demand on that side. We're selling attention. And so we've thought deeply about it. Like, we put that email in your inbox. That is an interruption. You can spend 30 seconds on it, a minute on it and get rid of it, or you can opt in to take a bigger relationship and reply to that thing. It's a massively subtle difference that we've realized over the last 2 years. So we are not selling our users time. We are selling like small interruptions in their attention, right?
And you've humanized it too. Like the problem with email is you just don't there's no connection there when it's cold email. When someone donates to Wounded Warriors, which is your charity, and they made the conscious decision to do it, someone on the other end thinks it's important enough for you to see this, especially depending on the amount they donate.
It's powerful. Like we've had ones where there's this one woman that donated to one of our users, Dan, articles on her blog, but she donated $1 or $2. And it was like, no, it's not for me, but why don't you try over here? And she ended up finding another lead over there, come back and gave $25 more to Dan's charity. Like, thank you so much. Right. So there's these causes and these connections that are there. And so I think that's the big message that we're after, which is people may see us the first time and they say, yikes, this is scary and new and I don't like it. But if you take a step back and you say we're not after shutting down communication. We're actually after creating the right connections. But to do that, we need to take the noise down for everybody.
Yeah, it's awesome stuff. I think what you guys are doing is really cool. We want to ask everyone who comes on the show, who's highly successful, obviously someone who's led and has been part of 3 major companies. You founded your own company. What are some of the daily routines or daily activities that you do that have contributed to your success?
Daily routines. I'm fairly systematic, process oriented. I mean, every day I will post on social media, so I will carve out time to do that. I think and being consistent in what messages you have. I'd say, beyond that, I think it's just being personal and helping people out. Like I'm a big fan of just giving back to folks. They may be 20 years younger than me, but I can help them out. And those things end up. There's one guy he needed some advice. I gave it to him. We became really good friends. And now he's giving me advice. Right. And so I think, but if you give without expecting, I think it can be helpful. Now there's the danger, right? You give without expecting, and sometimes people end up trying to sell you more. So it's a slippery slope for sure.
Do you know how much money, and it's okay if you don't want to say it, how much money Gated has raised for all these different charities?
I do. We don't disclose it yet. Okay. I think we focus more on, we haven't really fully released Gated to the public yet. You can't just go on and sign up. We've got a huge waiting list and it's growing rapidly. I think we're still tweaking some things behind the scenes before we do that. So we've been focused much more on what are the unit economics? What's the experience for the user? What's the experience for the sender? And if we get those things right, then this thing grows really fast. So, our aspiration is to give this away free to millions of users.
Yeah, I love it.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on the show, Andy. Really appreciated the conversation. Looking forward to what happens with Gated in the future. Before we close out, can you let people know how they can connect with you?
Gated.com.
Gated.com. It's that easy. GATED, just like it sounds. Gated.com. Thank you so much for listening. You can get the show notes and the video of this episode over at staypaidpodcast.com. And while you're there, drop us a 5-star review on Apple Podcast. Leave a rating just to let us know how we're doing. And the best way to help out the show and show your support is to tell a friend. If you want to get hold of me or Luke, you can email us at podcast@remindermedia.com. And of course, you can follow us on Instagram. We are at Stay Paid Podcast. For this episode of Stay Paid, I'm Joshua Stike.
Guys, I'm Luke Acree. Got a great action item for you here. Is all of you are probably doing email marketing, right? So implement this week in your emails that are going out. Stop and ask yourself, if you had to pay $2 for this email to enter the inbox or $3 to the list that you're sending it to, would you send that email? Would you actually click send on that email if you had to actually pay $3 for every inbox that it was hitting? I think that is such a great action item to pause you and stop you and make you think about what you actually wrote to improve the quality of your content. Because like we said, the content and the personalization of that content is the key in order for you to actually drive action from that consumer and value to that consumer. Remember, the difference between a top producer and a mediocre producer in every single business is top producers take action. Take action on that today.